So we've got this batch of pen holders built and it's time to start the sanding process.
This video is going to show you how to prep a project for oil-based finish. How to sand it professionally so that it looks nice like this guy here. This is a pen holder with bloodwood in the middle that's going out in the mail today, and I just wanted to use it as an example of what an item's going to look like after it goes through this process. So with oil-based finishes, remember, we're not just talking about how the finish looks, but how it feels, because we're feeling the wood, which has absorbed it, not a top coat sitting on top of the wood. So we'll need some basic stuff to get started here.
First, we got to talk about the finish itself. We're going to be using tried and true original wood finish. As you can see, it's a polymerized linseed oil and beeswax based finish. This same process will apply if you want to use something like a cutting board or mineral oil instead. I personally still follow this process when I use Danish oil, though Danish oil does leave a bit of a top coat. Next, we are going to need some sandpaper and sanding devices. So all of our stuff is ready for 180 sandpaper the way it comes off of our machines. We could probably even jump right to 220 if we sand thoroughly enough. This is going to vary for you. It's going to be different for everybody. It's going to depend on the type of saw blades that you have, how smooth of a cut you get right off of the saw, and what sandpaper you need to start with. But in general, we're going to assume for this video that you're already sanded up to about 120. So next, we are going to hit it with the 180. So we are going to use the random orbit sander for that. This thing's great. These are generally very inexpensive. You can get ones that hook up specifically with certain vacuums. This one has a little port for a vacuum, and I like to use this little guy right here. This VacMaster works well with it. In the future, I think I'm going to upgrade though to a dedicated vacuum. You can also use little sanding blocks like this. These little yellow guys are available on Amazon and all sorts of places. Maybe I'll leave a link down below to them. They can save you a lot of time, and I'm actually going to use this to break the corners on these and get a nice light chamfer, you'll see. No, that's not blood on there, it's wood glue. The last thing you're going to need is this stuff right here. It's called tack cloth. It's basically a cheesecloth that is saturated with a wax, and it's really good at picking up those fine little dust particles that you are going to create with this 400 grit sandpaper and getting everything off the workpiece before you put that oil in. It's going to give you a nice clear finish. It's going to be less cloudy. It's going to just be neater and more professional looking if you hit things quick with this tack cloth. These are optional. If you're wondering about these little doodads, this is just packing material. I think it came in my bandsaws box. Or, you know, if you bought a printer or something, you'd see these making a rigid frame around the outside of it, stopping it from getting damaged in the box. They're great for getting things off the workbench when they are drying and absorbing the oil that you just put in them.
So even though we're hooked up to the vac, we're still going to go ahead and wear a dust mask. I use this Breathe Buddy with the particulate cartridges.
These are starting to look pretty good, nice and smooth. What we gotta do before we hit them with that last bit of 400 sandpaper is I gotta go and break the edge of these rims. And then I gotta go and sand these corners and break that edge as well on each one. So I'm gonna do that real quick, and then it's 400 grit and time for the fun part.
Alright, so here's what this stuff looks like. It's pretty goopy. So get it onto a clean rag however you can. You can use a little applicator stick like this, or you can stick your cloth right into the can of finish like a heathen. I do that sometimes. I'll probably do it later. I will do it later. Anyhow, the finish part's pretty easy after all that sanding. You really just want to get it on there in excess. So pay attention to this end grain and make sure that you put excess on the end grain. It might be worth going and checking that end grain a second time too to see if it sucked up all the finish. That will happen a lot with oil-based finish. So yeah, just get it on there. Try not to rough up the cloth too badly so that you minimize the amount of lint you're going to have to clean off later. And yeah, that's about it. These are looking pretty solid. You can see some nice walnut and cherry grain, but we still got to hit the inner lips of these holes to make them look a little better and minimize that contrast where the hole meets the surface. I don't go all the way down because that finish will never dry, so I just kind of go about half an inch down these holes. So here we go, everything's all set. Ready to hit the restock button on this listing now that I got about 7 of these done. Well, 8, but I only like 7 of them. So I really like how you can see all the intricacies within that walnut grain when you sand up to 400. These also feel super smooth. People definitely notice when they handle them at craft fairs. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. I hope you learned a thing or two. If you got any questions about the process, any tips, any personalizations that you like to take, go ahead and let me know in the comments. And until next time, peace.